Good morning, afternoon, and good evening, whoever you're joining me. Thank you very much for joining me in your time today. So we're going to dive straight in. So today's chapter is chapter 41 of the Tanya Amarim. And just a quick recap from the last chapter. The title page of the Tanya states that this book is based on the verse, "For this thing is very near to you, in your mouth and your heart, that you may do it." This means that observing the Torah mitzvah with one's heart, with a love and fear of God, is very near, within simple reach. It is the love of God written by the Alter Rebbe that motivates one to fulfill all the positive mitzvot. In order for you to perform them properly and eagerly, you must be imbued with love for God and desire to cleave to Him. But performing them will enable him to cleave to God. Similarly, fear of God lies at the roots of one's observance of the prohibited mitzvah. When one stands in true fear of God, he will refrain from transgressing and thereby rebelling against His will. In the last few chapters, the Alter Rebbe went on to explain that love and fear are the wings that elevate one's mitzvah, cause them to ascend to the sphere of the upper world. Conversely, mitzvah fulfilled without spiritual intent, fostered by the love and fear of God, are likened to a body bereft of its soul. In the last few chapters, the Alter Rebbe went on to explain that love and fear are the wings that elevate one's mitzvah, cause them to ascend to the sphere of the upper world. Conversely, mitzvah fulfilled without any spiritual intent, fostered by the love and fear of God, are likened to a body bereft of its soul. Okay, so that was a repetition. Apologize. In chapter 41, the Alter Rebbe now goes to say that fear of God is the beginning and the core of the divine service. This is so not regarding the negative precepts, but also regards the positive precepts. While it's true that the love of God motivates one observing the positive commands, nevertheless, the observance of these commands too must be impelled by some measure of fear as well. For although the divine service implies an analogy with the manner of an erved, a servant, serves his master's service out of fear. Fear of God is therefore the beginning and the mainstay of spiritual service. One must be mindful that the core of one's divine service is fear of rebelling against the King of Kings innate in one's heart, and not only love of Him. This can be achieved by manifesting it in the heart through meditating on God's greatness, or at least in the mind. The infinite one fills all worlds, animating them with an indwelling life force, and the creative being can experience, comprehend, and encompass the world. He also animates them with life force that transcends the experience and comprehension of created beings. His kingship is uniquely bestowed upon the people of Israel as one of his names, the King of Israel. A Jew should remind him or herself that the purpose and intent of creation is God's sovereignty relates to him or herself, specifically that God become king over him or her. The realization that God bestows his kingship upon each individual in particular touches the responsive chord within one. He or she is more apt to demand of him or herself that they accept the heavenly oak which is required of all Jews. The Alter Rebbe here states that Hashem not only being omnipresent, the individual is scrutinized by searching the innermost thoughts to see whether he or she is serving him. He or she serving him as is fitting. This refers to the profound meditation of the awe-fear of the divine presence that is to standing before a king of flesh and blood. This contemplation prior to the performance of a commandment, for example, to fill in, when he draws upon himself his best light, that is over the part of God above his soul, which abides in his body and animates it. This meditation will enable him to serve God with awe. One should reflect on how the light of the infinite one pervading all worlds, the high world, is clothed in the lessons of wisdom and Torah. Closing the lessons and wisdom of the Torah. In the very lessons of the Torah that a person utters, and in the Torah wisdom that he comprehends, God's will is to be found as explained in chapter 4. All this can be accomplished by arousing, even only in his mind, at least a minimum level of fear, utilizing it in the study of Torah and the performance of the commandments. If one studies Torah and performs the commandments with love alone, in order to cleave to him, then this is not termed service of a servant, whereas the Torah is declared, "You shall serve the Avaditem, the Lord your God." This verb is cognate with the noun eved, servant, and it signifies service motivated by fear of all God, which is likewise written, "And you shall serve him," avoda. In the Amarim, Ibn 111b, it is written that every man must in his right service belong to two categories and levels, namely the category of a servant, who serves his master out of fear, and the category of a son who serves his father out of love. It is clear from all of the above that even if one loves God but lacks a fear of him, his spiritual labors will not be of the kind that the Torah calls avoda, divine service. Should he fail in his attempt at awakening the fear of God in his heart, he should at least arouse a feeling of fear and awe in his mind. Thus, although this individual fails to fulfill the command of fearing God, for fear must be felt in one's heart and very least in one's mind, he is nevertheless able to fulfill the precept of divine service by studying Torah and the commandments with the intention he is thereby serving God his King. After all this has been said, the Alter Rebbe will now say that although this person fails to experience the fear even in his mind, since he thinks about the idea that should invoke fear, he's fulfilling the command of fearing God. There are two levels of fear. There's two levels of fear of God, namely Yira Tata, the lower level of fear, and Yira Chait, fear of sin. Yira Tata is a fear of punishment rather than fear of God himself. The higher fear is a shamefaced fear, i.e. the state of being abashed and overawed in God's presence without any fear at all. However, it, i.e. one's fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs, does not soar on high to the supernal sphere through love alone. Just as the bird cannot fly with one wing, fear and love are the two wings, as stated in the Likutei Zohar, the spiritual wings of love and fear of God elevate the Torah mitzvah performed under their impetus to the supernal sphere. I've explained in the previous chapters, in order to awaken at least the natural love for God that is hidden in one's heart, so at least he should at least become conscious of it in his mind to recall his love of the one God in his thought and desire to cleave to him. In summary, a Jewish divine service was embraced both that of a son who serves his father out of love and that of a servant who serves his master of fear and awe. The Alter Rebbe has stated earlier that a person's intention when performing the Torah mitzvot should be that his soul cleave to God. He now goes on to say that a Jew's spiritual service also includes the goal of becoming one with all the Jewish people. For this reason, his intention should be limited to having his own soul cleave to God, but also that the source of his soul and the source of all souls of Israel cleave to him. By doing so, the individual brings about the union, the yichud, of the higher and lower levels of godliness, known respectively as Kudsha Barichu, the Holy One, blessed be He, and Shekhinah, my presence. For the former is the source of the Torah mitzvah, and the latter, that's what all Jewish souls is explained the concluding phrase of the formula recited before the performance of such mitzvot for the sake of the union of the Kudsha Barichu with the Shekhinah in the name of all Israel. As the Rebbe notes, in the name of all Israel implies that the union achieved through the performance of the mitzvah is for the sake of and in the name of all Israel. For it is with the Shekhinah that Kudsha Barichu is united, and the Shekhinah is the source of all Jewish souls. In the Alter Rebbe's words, therefore he should intend to unite and attach to him, blessed be He, the source of the divine soul, and in addition the source of all the souls of all Israel. Now we are constantly taught that one should be wary of spiritual intentions which outstrip one's cultural spiritual pace. Spirituality must be in an environment of honesty. How then are we to expect that every Jew study Torah and perform mitzvah for the sake of uniting all Israel with God? He himself knows that he does not mean it wholeheartedly. The Alter Rebbe therefore goes on to explain that although an individual may not be entirely sincere in his intention, his integrity is not comprised thereby. Compromise, thereby. For every Jew desires to fulfill God's will and unite all Jews is surely His will. One should therefore not be apprehensive by his own sincerity to the point that he refrains from this comprehensive intention of unity. For to a certain degree, his intention is consciously sincere. Moreover, there is no secluding him, for this unity is what his soul desires. I hope this made sense. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the chat box and feel free to subscribe. I wish you all the best and a Shana Tova.